Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for giving me the challenge to speak here as the last speaker. So many clever things have already been said, so I hope that I can add something to it. At least I thank you for the what can I say, the trust that I can add something. I have not prepared a whole hour for you to speak in. I have some questions at last that we can discuss, because I believe that the discussions we can have can teach us all and can be good learning for us all. But coming up here just after a delicious lunch, I've prepared a little energizer for us to get us all started. And this energizer has, of course, something to do with innovation. And I'll see if I can move to my slideshow. Here it comes. Yes. I stole a few cups this morning, and I don't know if I stole enough. And you don't actually need one each, but if you're a kind of person that best develops by touching and get ideas by touching the material, you're very welcome to take a cup and sit with that while you generate ideas. Because within the next 2 minutes, I challenge you to come up with as many ideas as possible for the use of a paper cup. So please, 2 minutes, grab a piece of paper and a pen and write as many ideas that you can come up with for the use of a paper cup.
I can see you smoking around here now.
Are you writing down? In a few minutes I'll ask you, or in 1 minute I'll ask you how many ideas you came up with. So please write down all your ideas. And I won't say think out of the box, but think out of the cup. Or into the cup. So, 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. So, how many of you had 20 ideas? 20 ideas? No? How many had 10 ideas? 10? Yes? Yeah, good. 2 ideas. How many had 2 ideas? Great. Great. Can we just hear some of the most outrageous ideas amongst you? Palle, you have an outrageous idea? Did you come up with any, or are you?
I'm thinking coffee.
Great. Great.
The second one is tea.
Perfect, Palle.
They have to. They are the one that have to guess it.
That's fine. That's fine.
Who do you want to?
Who wants to just share an outrageous idea?
Hvad hedder en øse på engelsk?
Øse. Spoon.
Jeg mener, hvis man sejler og skal...
When you row. Oh.
When you have to take water out of the boat.
Take water out of the boat. Yes, of course. Thank you. Yeah.
Grow herbs in.
Grow herbs in. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
A bathtub for a little bird.
Yes. Thank you. Great. You know, there are plenty of ideas, so it should have been possible to generate 20, but it's perfectly all right because it has nothing to do about competitioning and it doesn't say anything about how innovative you are. It only says something about how quickly you can think out of the box. But in relation to innovation, you can all be as innovative. And here are some few key points about being innovative. So, as just mentioned, ideas are not innovation, but it's a good condition for creating innovation. Meaning, if you want to create innovation, allow yourself time to come up with a lot of ideas, because one of them might be able to be grown into to become an innovation. We have different competences. Some are good at idea creation, and Hanne, I heard you had 20, so you're good at that. And some are maybe good at facilitating processes, which is also an important skill and competence in order to generate, to spark innovation. And innovation involves all these competences. So we need to remember that when we want to do innovation, to invite a lot of competences. It's a social process. So together we can generate even more ideas. And I'm sure that when you came out with the idea about growing herbs, it might have sparked ideas at some of you to build on that. So it is a social process. So wanting to be innovative, you should invite more people. Ideas can be turned into innovation if they're supported with the right circumstances. And what are right circumstances? Well, it depends, but some of the circumstances is the leadership, the development resources that are there, the process facilitation, etc. And I'll come back to that, because today I'm going to share a case with you that has these elements in it, and you will see how these elements has influenced the process we've been going through. Obstructions create creativity. So the more obstructions, the more we are forced to think out of the box, and the more likely we are to create innovation. So if I told you just to generate ideas in 2 minutes, you wouldn't know where to start. And maybe you have had even fewer ideas that you had, what you had. But once I told you, you have only this cup and 2 minutes, that sparks ideas. The obstructions that are built into the public sector are very good at idea generators or starters. It's a very good starting point, and that is why it is so important for the private sector to come in and discover and work with the obstructions that are in the system. So we should really actually be thankful for the obstructions and see them as possibilities for innovation. A little about my background. So for the next half an hour maybe, I'll tell you start about who I am and what is Væksthus doing, and why am I and Væksthus talking about public-private innovation. Then I'll tell you a bit about public or private innovation, my experiences doing a lot of those projects since 2008. And at last, I'll come in and talk about this case we've been doing together with Skovhuset, and tell you about how we have been working with implementation by creating this innovation network. So who am I? I have these 8 years of experience in Væksthus Greater Copenhagen, and where I've been project managing several PPI projects. So I'm in the middle of both the public and the private sector. I see myself as either nor. I'm the facilitating part that is measured on, who's measured on how many matches I can do, great matches that leads to innovation. Besides that, I'm a B2G consultant, meaning business to government consultant, meaning that the businesses that come to Greater Copenhagen, Væksthus Greater Copenhagen, they can consult me if they want to get closer to the public sector. If they have questions around how to sell to the public sector, or how the public sector works, how to write what procurement offers, questions like that. I consult private companies for that. And then I'm a co-author of 2 handbooks, and I left the handbook here. Unfortunately, this is my last copy, but we have more to come. They are being printed at this moment because they have been very popular. This handbook is about how to co-create. But as the public and the private sector differ so much, differ both in how you need to talk to the public sector, how you need to talk to the private sector, what is motivating to hear. It differs so much that we still wanted to communicate in just one book or booklet. We chose to do a 2-sided handbook. So the one side is for the public and the other side is for the private, and you can read about how to corroborate and why you should do it. This is to be found on a website, and I'll post that website. Unfortunately, it's only in Danish so far, but we have asked the Nordic Innovation about funding to make it in English. So hopefully, and it's too bad Dennis has left the building, but hopefully we can find some funding to do that.
That's maybe why he went to Copenhagen.
Yeah, exactly. 1 million, I think we can do. That'll do.
Then we maybe get it in Finnish as well.
Why not? My educational background, I'm a bachelor in marketing and economics many years ago. Then I'm a chaos pilot, and that's a 3-year education in how to do project in chaotic systems, which I believe that we live in a chaotic world right now, so it's quite useful. But working in the public sector, I've discovered that you also need some kind of degree, acknowledged degree, and that is why I just finished my Master in Leadership and Innovation this summer. And I actually did my master thesis writing about living labs, and I showcased, or I did a case study on Skovhuset while facilitating the network. So I've been writing about that in my master thesis, and that is in English, so if you're interested. Væksthus Greater Copenhagen, just a few words about that. We are owned by the municipalities. We are measured on how well we coach the companies who come to us. We are measured how much growth, on their growth rates, and compared to the companies who have not been in contact with Væksthus, with the consultants. And so far we are doing quite good. Our companies, they grow more than the companies who haven't been in contact with us. So our wages are so far paid. We also drive a lot of projects and a lot of PPI projects, and that's mostly what I've been doing for the last 8 years in Væksthus. And these projects I've just listed here, and I'm not going into details with them. Oh, this is...
That's a little bit irritating.
Yeah. It's just to show you that we have been doing a lot of projects, and we have been building our learnings into the next projects. Right now we have several Nordic projects, and one of them I'll go into detail with right now because it is a project that might be interesting for you Nordic fellows here. Or just one common thing I'll say about these that the purpose of all of them is to match the public and private, and the purpose is to gain shared value out of all the projects. And we just heard, I don't know where he is, Lars from Øllgaard. Yeah, he's sitting right there. How important it is that all the bottom lines are valued or are acknowledged, and that is of course what we have been building or trying to build into all those projects we have been doing. About the Nordic Living Lab Alliance, shortly, we have just got the funding, or it's about to come into our account right now, our funding from the Nordic Innovation. We have partners from all of the Nordic cities, Væksthus and Oslo, Iceland, Helsinki and Copenhagen. And we have a website that has just been published. There's not much on it yet, but hopefully very soon we can put the first projects on. And the aim is to do activities where we can make the match between the companies and the municipalities. We have said that we will get in contact with 100 companies, and 30 of them should be involved with Nordic projects. And we also said that we would be working with 30 different living labs or municipalities. So here it is, my invitation for you, all of you, to bring on ideas on or wishes to what we can do in this funding period in order to add value and make some valuable projects. So please don't hesitate to contact us if you have any wishes to participate. And unfortunately, it's only the Nordic. So yeah, I'm sorry.
Australia's out.
Australia's out, yeah. Please bring forward a project and we'll look at it. So what we want to do is, of course, collect the best insights we have, the best practices, and share that across the Nordic countries. And we are cooperating with Dennis and collect. So it's not the same we're doing, but it is an add-on, and we are learning from each other, and we are within the same organization. So we do know that there are projects that are delivering tools. So we're not going to do the same thing, but we're going to using those tools that Connect has already provided. A bit about public-private innovation before I go down into details with our case. So what is it? The definition is it's a collaboration between public and private partners around developing innovative solutions to the public challenges. And of course, it's in the center there, the common interest. That is where public-private innovation happens. But what is a successful public-private innovation project? And that is where we create shared learning. And it cannot be said enough times, but in order to be a successful project, it needs to benefit all partners, citizens, the municipalities, and the companies. And we call that shared value, and I'll use that term further on. And if you have any questions, of course, please don't hesitate to ask. This little illustration is quite good, I think, because it's not all challenges or projects that are that fits into a public-private innovation project. For instance, if the municipality has an idea and it has already been developed and they know exactly what to buy, then just please go and buy it. Don't make a huge project out of it. And again, if the public sector knows what to buy and they can, maybe they haven't seen the product yet, but they could write it in a tender exactly what they want to buy, then just please go and write it and buy it. But if the public sector thinks that it might be interesting to look at other perspectives about their idea and their need, and if they think that it might be able, the private sector might be able to add new perspectives, new ideas, and that can be developed into a new product or service, well, it might be a good idea and suitable to establish a PPI project. But doing these PPI projects are resourceful, so we should really be aware how many of them we start and what the purposes are. Have you seen this little model before? No. And I think actually that the private companies could also benefit from looking at it and challenge the public sector when they come with a project if they really want to do a PPI project. Because sometimes they do know what they want and they are not flexible in their ideas, so just let them go forward and buy or write the tender. So 3 learnings about creating shared value. We need to focus on the demands. And before we called it user-driven innovation, but I think that's not a good term because it shouldn't be the users who drive the innovation processes. They can't be the drivers, but they can be the center of the innovation. And we should have that in mind. So we should really call it user-centric innovation, and that is where all projects should start. It should start from what are the needs with the users. Because if we start there, there's a greater possibility that the companies can sell the products afterwards because there is a demand for it, and it's a greater possibility that the employees would be happy to use the products. Number 2, we should focus on co-creation. Because the companies, they bring in knowledge that we have no idea of even exists sometimes when we are not professional within that knowledge or that technology. So the private companies can really bring some added value to the public service if we invite them in, and vice versa. It is impossible for the private companies to imagine what obstacles we are discovering in the public sector and what needs there are out there. And that's why we have become so popular in Væksthus Greater Copenhagen, because we have this network to the municipalities. So when a company comes to me and I think that the idea or the product is interesting, I can match them with a municipality who wants to talk to them and have a dialogue around their product. And that's so useful for the company. Some of them, they just go right back and change their idea or change their market because they see right away, well, this is not something that the public sector will ever buy. But some of them, they also get very useful insights about the users, and they maybe twist their project a bit, and they can go into a test with the public sector. So combine the know-how, that is what sparks innovation. And the last one is about creating learning. And we have mentioned and touched upon this subject just a little bit during these 2 days. But it's so important that we collect all these insights. And it is difficult because people are quitting jobs and starting somewhere else, and we might think that we lose some of the organizational learning. So it's not easy, to collect and build on the learning, but we should really try to capture the learning and put them into our processes and products, so we can use the learnings as stepping stones and not invent the den dybe tallerken again and again, the plate again and again. So these are the 3 key learnings that I wanted to share with you about creating shared value, and if we create shared value out of our projects, it is successful, and it can be successful PPI projects. So, the case, creating an innovation network. First of all, I want to start sharing this little quote from Charlotte in Skovhuset, because it says very clearly what has actually come out of innovating together and having this close relationship with the suppliers and the students that has been invited into Skovhuset. So Charlotte is saying, from being a floor that only detects and registers falls, the intention is now that it becomes a floor that can alert the employees about the users' changed behaviors and thereby help preventing falling accidents. If successful, it will create a real difference. So, going from buying this product to actually work with implementation and now being able to see that we can actually invent further on the product has been a great eye-opener. And Palle, he says this from his perspective. The PPI agreement clearly brings added value for a private company like us. We learned new and better ways of implement behavioral changes into our floor thanks to DTU. And DTU is a Danish technology university. Thank you. And additional, we also learned more about the customers' needs, challenges and requirements from the whole working group, which altogether increase the total value of the system when fully implemented in the next version in the near future. I think that this says it all. I mean, the private part can see that investing resources in the implementation phase, where they've been invited from Skovhuset to participate in the implementation of the floor, has actually given them insights that they couldn't have gotten without investing these resources. And on the other hand, Charlotte is saying very clearly that it has changed the perspective. This floor has really changed the perspectives. And how have we come so far? Here is the Skovhuset Innovation Network, and it is illustrated in a logo we have just had made. And as you see, all logos are in equal size, meaning that this network is really a good example of collaboration where no one adds more value than others. We are all needed and all respected and all bring in their perspectives. Another thing in this logo is that when we started, the SIF logo and the Maricare logo was in 2 different boxes, but now it's in the same box. And you might want to elaborate on that maybe later on. Some facts about the network. We're these 6 partners. We are established in a little more than 1 year ago, at the same, or a little after you moved into Skovhuset and started really working on the implementation phase of the floor, which was built into the new building. The network focused on optimizing this implementation. And from the beginning of the network, there was no clear goal on what we wanted to get out of it. And that's very important. There was a strong belief that if we were cooperating and collaborating, we would add value, but we had no clear goal. And even though there was no clear goal, all partners said, yes, let's start a network, let's start having dialogues around it and see where it will get us. So what did we agree on, as we did not have a goal in the beginning? We shared a vision. Together we are able to think bigger, wiser, and more innovative about creating the nursery homes of the future. That was a shared vision, and this shared vision came out of one of the meetings we had. And about the meetings, I would just shortly mention that we held the meetings as small workshops. So in the meetings we discussed both the vision, different perspectives. We invited students to come and present their work. I think I have more pointers here. We heard about the employees and how they were working and experimenting working with the floor from daily life. So we got the user-centered approach with us in the meeting room. And we also talked about what we wanted to gain, and we spent quite a lot of time with that, asking around the table, what do you want to get out of being a part of this network? Why do you want to use resources in a project or a network where we don't have a specific goal? And one aim was that we wanted to, we believed that it would create value, and we wanted to communicate this value whenever it's created. So we had this learning perspective that we were sure that we could learn from each other, and we wanted to share that. And we also did quite a lot about having these meetings. Our hostmanship shifted from each meeting, or it shifts because I shouldn't talk in past tense, because we are actually doing this right now. And every time we meet in a different place, and we actually do quite a lot about out of the meetings. I mean, we serve good coffee and chocolate, and they are facilitated, they are being scheduled. There's an agenda. We know exactly what we want to talk about in each meeting. But that's not the same as as we knew what we got out of the meetings. So it has been an investment for us all the way through. In the meetings, in one of the meetings, we also did an idea generation about what should we work on, what kind of projects would be appropriate. And this was where we decided on these 2 projects, the big data project and the development of the user interface, and that these ideas were sparked from the students who had done research and had done their projects in Skovhuset. And from what they have learned, they presented to the network. We we were very inspired by them, and we agreed on digging further into those 2 projects. And right now, those are smaller projects, groups that has come out of the network. So we still meet in the network, but the smaller groups meet in other settings at other times also. These 6 elements that I want to share with you now is what we have learned that needs to be in place in order to create a successful network. Because we do really believe that we have created something special and that we can learn from that. And you can learn from that if you want to work with implementation that might lead to new innovations. And the first element is a visionary leader. And I really think that Skovhuset and Hillerød municipality is very lucky to have Charlotte as the fire soul, we call that ildsjæl, that has a vision and this innovative mindset that she has. It has been so important that she wanted to take this risk and risk in the sense of inviting and investing resources in this network. She and Skovhuset often, or always, I don't know if it's often or always, but you say yes to students that come to you and want to write and research in Skovhuset. And it does take a lot of resources, but on the other hand, you believe that those resources that can actually be built into developing the nursery home. And so far, it has shown good results. So that's an example of a mindset, you know, this open, inviting mindset. And Hanne just mentioned a bit about it, but when you buy products, you don't just accept the products to be delivered at the doorstep. You invite the suppliers to come with you in and help you with the implementation. And that's such an important element also, because both the suppliers learn about the real setting, the users, they can see with their own eyes what works and what don't, and can develop further. And you are able to speak to them and have dialogue with them directly, and that's really important. But in order to do that, you need to be engaging, and luckily you have that engagement in you as well, and that's important. There was a vision from the beginning, and this vision about collaborating attracted the greater group of key stakeholders. And they are sitting here. And I must say that relation rules. I think that Palle, you are a great example of that, actually. How to create relations and how that can spark and engage. I think you have created that here in these days. But it has, and it has been created also here in this network. The engagement has been there, and that is what is attracting. There's been a willingness to invest these resources, even though it has been not clear what we wanted to get out of it. It's fluffy. It's the words innovation. It's always not always what the municipality leadership they want to invest in, spending resources on meetings with no clear goals. That's not really well seen everywhere, at least. And then the facilitation. I've heard from the group that it has been so important that there have been a resource like me and my colleagues that we have been able to put resources into facilitating this network. We're not directly in it. We stand on the side and can maybe add the more neutral perspective, and by that be able to facilitate more freely, because we don't have we don't have to choose sides, or we don't have to push anything forward. So this neutral facilitation, I think, is important as well. A shared responsibility has also been there all the time, and it has also been created by us taking tours, visiting each other. That has been a part of creating this shared responsibility. We were responsible of the meetings. Of course, there was an agenda, and I was ahead of that. But arranging the surroundings and the meetings was up to each member to do that on turns, and that created a shared responsibility. Also, that we were all engaging what we could in order to get something out of the meetings. There were nobody pointing at me saying you are responsible for a fruitful meeting. And at last, a safe learning space. We have, in my opinion, shared very honestly our obstacles, our sometimes frustration about why it doesn't work and what we should do and where we're going to go. And I think it's very essential that we can have these conversations, and we have a space that allows for that open conversation. And we have created that. The last slide I want to show you is showing the material for next week. Again, we have the logo, but next week we are together attending this annual welfare exhibition in Copenhagen, where a lot of private companies are showing their products, and there are representatives from all municipalities in Denmark. It's really a huge exhibition that's annual, and we have prepared a stand where we are attending all together, and we have had materials made from SIF. These are some great posters we're going to have at the stand. We've had pictures taken from the inhabitants in Skovhuset. We'll be talking about the center floor, of course, and what this network has created and why we should be doing this innovation network, focusing on implementation. And here we will have all of us illustrated with a little picture and a little saying of what PPI means to us and what we can get out of it. So just to sum up, 3 takeaways from my little presentation. Successful PPI projects create shared value, so it benefits us all. Otherwise, we shouldn't do it if we can't see the beneficial for all of us, all the partners in it. It requires a fire soul or visionary leader, shared vision, engaged stakeholders, and facilitation resources. And at last, creativity and innovation is not the same. Innovation requires the right circumstances. And I really hope that you got a good picture of examples of right circumstances are. And I'm sure if we put the right circumstances into some of your ideas of the paper cup, we might be able to invent something great and big. This is all I have. I have some questions that I don't know how much time we have left. What we should we're okay. There's time for questions and there's time for dialogue afterwards. So, first of all, are there any questions?
I would like to ask our owner, should we start selling plastic cups, paper cups?
No, not paper cups, but you can invent something out of it.
Okay, that's a good
The
idea.
paper cup has already been invented.
Yes.
We don't need more of that.
Any questions to Sara? No? So you know all about implementation?
What it takes. Yeah.
Then I
Have you similar experiences? Yeah. There's a question there.
Yes, I do have one question. If you think about that you are a public entity, how do you choose your partner?
How we choose our partners?
How do you choose your partner? Because it's so that if you do something together, you have to go according to the procurement legislation.
Always.
Always.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you see another question? How do you see this new procurement legislation that it gives you the possibility to use the innovation partnership because it's now written in that directive?
That's right. I think there are great perspectives in it, and it's well seen from the government that they need to soften up their legislation because it has been so strict and it has not allowed this public-private integration. And we've seen that the public were afraid to talk with the private ones, the private partners, about what to buy and get some knowledge sharing going on, because they were afraid that the private couldn't sell their products to them, and vice versa. So I think that now we have a saying for it. It's called public-private partnerships, and is written in the legislation. And the rate of the amount that you can buy for has been rising as well. That gives better possibilities to do these partnerships without needing to go into tender. And it's a very good example what we discussed yesterday, that the legislation shifts because there's a demand in the market that we need to change, and we've seen that change, and that's we see great perspectives in that.
Any other questions? No? Then I can tell a little bit about on the private company side about this process, which it has been also. For us as a private company, when we started, of course we have done project before, but we never really had a chance to go under the skin on the customer to understand what do they eat, when do they wake up. No, what I mean with it is to really understand on the customer side what are the real requests and wishes when we have a product like this. And this is a learning phase which bring a company, a private company as us, much further, where we have where we can use all that added information to make further development on the product. And that gives us a step ahead and ahead and ahead. So we're not experts, we're not nurses. We are technical nurses, as we call ourselves nowadays. But when we understand the customer side, then we can also better develop. So like we say, we have a saying here in the company also, why should we develop something which the customer have not heard about? So the customer, you bring a product out to the customer, and then the customer say, well, that's a nice product, but I can't use it. So we have wasted a lot of money and time. So dialogue, really dialogue, that's with the customer. Second part is also, we talk about the uses, etc., etc. But it's not only that, there's also coming other part in where we, as you saw, Modicare was not standing alone. We were standing together with SIF. We were working very close with SIF, which was supplying another nurse call system. So we have to bring all this all this together in on a level where the customer could get really added value out of it. And then of course when you work together with guys like this, then you continue working with them. So that's what we have done, and they are not just a company, they are also part of the working group of the network. So we're all talking the same language, so to say, and that's important. This is what we want to do. I think I forgot to say that yesterday, or mentioned very little about it when we did the project, the first project actually here in Helsinki, in Gustavsgaten, back in 2005, where we of course did all the installation and training, etc., etc. And then there was a big research afterwards. That was also with university. It was also a similar way, and it also gave some documentation, some information about what the sensor floor could do. But that was 4 years of research and documentation. But those documentation, that's according to Finnish working culture on a nursing home. It's not totally the same in Sweden, it's not totally the same in Denmark or in Norway. We always have different way of working, and we need to know what are the added value in the countries. That's a very important thing.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
You agree?
Yeah.
Yep. Any question or
Just
to
where
that?
is the Summery?
Sorry?
You mentioned
The exhibition?
exhibition, yes.
That's on Thursday next week in Copenhagen.
And it's called?
It's called Velfærdens Innovationsdag. It's the innovation day of the welfare, innovating the welfare system, translated. And you're welcome. Yeah, you need to buy a ticket, though. Yeah, but it's a very interesting exhibition, and a lot of very interesting companies are there.
And the reason why we are there all together is to share and tell about what has been done.
Yeah.
So it's not just to stand and smile.
No. But we have brought the floor, and we've brought the wireless, and we will be there and explaining. Yeah.
So see
Singing
you
and
there next
dance.
week. Okay,
Yes.
no further question? All right. I think, is the coffee down there, Hannah? That sounds great. So this is the end, unfortunately, the end of 2 nice days.